This video tutorial I will explain what is REST and good practices for API design. First we will see what is REST. In 2000, Roy Fielding, he is one of the principal authors of the HTTP specification. He proposed an architectural approach for designing web services, and it is known as representational state transfer, and it is also called REST. REST APIs are implemented for a resource, which could be an entity or service. Example of resources are user, product. REST APIs provide way to identify the resource by its URI, which can be used to transfer a representation of the resource current state over HTTP. Why is API design is so important? REST APIs are face of any service. So REST API should be easy to understand so that integration is straightforward. REST API should be well documented, and REST API should follow accepted standards such as HTTP. Use nouns in URI. REST API should be designed for resources, which can be entities or services. Therefore, URI must always be nouns. For example, instead of using create product, we have to use products. Plurals or singulars. Generally, we prefer to use plurals for resource name, but there is no hard rule that one cannot use singular for resource name. Why we are using plural is we are operating on one resource from the collection of resources. So to depict collection, we use plural. And here you can see the example. Get is the HTTP method and product slash 200. And in this case, the client is asking to retrieve resource from the products collection with ID 200. And while creating resource, we want to add one resource to the current collection of resources. So the API will look like this slash products. Products is a collection and HTTP method is post. Third point is let the HTTP verb define action. As per point 1, API should only provide nouns for resources and let the HTTP verbs define the action to be performed on the resource. Example of HTTP verbs or HTTP methods are get, post, put and delete. Post method is used to create the resource. Get method is used to read the data about an existing resource. Put method is used to update an existing resource. Delete method is used to remove the existing resource. For create a new customer, we have to use HTTP method as post and path as slash customers. To delete an existing customer, we have to use HTTP method as delete and path as slash customers and the ID of the customer. To get a specific customer, we have to use HTTP method as get and path as customers slash ID of the customer. To search all the customers, we have to use HTTP method as get and path as slash customers. To update an existing customer, we have to use HTTP method as put and path as slash customers and ID of the customer which we want to update. To get the list of employees, we have to use this URI and HTTP method as get. To get the particular employee, then we have to use this URI and HTTP method as get. To create a new employee, we have to use this URI, HTTP method as post. To update the existing employee, we have to use this URI and HTTP method as put. To delete an existing employee, we have to use this URI and HTTP method as delete. For get, update and delete, we are passing the employee ID which we want to get or update or delete. In this case, employee ID is 1. Don't misuse safe methods. Idempotency. Safe methods are HTTP methods which return the same resource representation irrespective of how many times they are called by the client. Get, head, options, and trace methods are defined as safe because they are only intended for retrieving the data, and they should not change the state of the resource on the server, and we should not use get method for deleting the resource. That is a violation of HTTP specification, and we have to use HTTP methods according to the action which needs to be performed. When an API is an idempotent, making multiple identical requests has the same effect as making the single request. This is usually not the case for post request because post request will create a new resource. Idempotence. When performing operation again gives the same result. Get, head, put and delete. These methods are idempotents. Post and patch methods are not idempotents. Get and head methods are safety methods. Put, delete, post and patch methods are not safety methods. Depict resource hierarchy through URI. If a resource contains sub-resources, we have to make sure to depict this in the API to make it more explicit. For example, if user has n number of posts, then we want to retrieve a specific post by the user, then API will look like this, and HTTP method will be get, and it will retrieve the post with ID 99 by user with ID 200. Version your APIs. Versioning APIs always helps to ensure backward compatibility of a service while adding new features or updating existing functionality for new clients. There are many ways to version an API. The most straightforward way is prefix the version before the resource on the URI. Here you can see version 1 slash products, version 2 slash products, version 3 slash products. Written representation, post, put, patch methods, which are used to create a resource or update fields in a resource, which should always return updated resource representation as a response with appropriate status code. Post method is used to create a new resource, and if it is successful, then it should return HTTP status code 201 along with URI of newly created resource in a location header as per the HTTP specification. Filter, search and sort. We should not create different URIs for fetching resources with filtering, searching or sorting parameters. We have to make URI simple, add query parameters to depict parameters or criteria to fetch the resource. In case of filtering, we have to use query parameters in the URL for filtering a resource from the server. Suppose if you want to get all the posts where state value is published, then we have to use this URI. And in this example, state is the filter parameter. Searching. To get the results with powerful search queries instead of basic filters, we can use multiple parameters in the URI. Here you can see the example. This will return all the posts where state value is published and tag is Java. Sorting. In case of sorting, ascending and descending sorting parameters can be passed in the URL. Here you can see the example. When we call this API endpoint, it will return all the posts sorted with descending order of created date and time. Hat Hypermedia's transfer engine of application state is a constraint of REST application architecture that distinguishes it from other network application architectures. Hatios provides ease of navigation through a resource and its available actions. This way, the client does not need to know how to interact with application for different actions, as all of the metadata will be embedded in the responses from the server. We will see the example so that you will understand. When we call this API endpoint, it returns user information whose ID is 100. And here we got the user detail. The name is Peter, and along with that, it returns links. And using this particular API endpoint, we can get posts which are related to user 100. Using this particular API endpoint, we can get address which is related to user 100, and this is called Hatios. It returns links which can be used further to get more details about this particular user, and we can return like this, or the Hatios links we can return like this. Stateless authentication and authorization. REST API should be stateless. Every request should be self-sufficient and must be fulfilled without the knowledge of the prior request. Previously, developers stored user information in server-side sessions, which is not scalable approach. For that reason, every request should contain all the information of the user instead of relying on the previous request. This can be achieved by using a JWT token with OAuth 2. Swagger for documentation. Swagger is a widely used tool to document REST APIs that provides way to explore the use of a specific API, therefore allowing developers to understand the underlying semantic behavior. Swagger is a declarative way of adding documentation using annotations, which further generates JSON describing APIs and their usage. We will see the example so that you will understand. Here you can see the example of Swagger API documentation. Here you can see the list of API endpoint which are supported by this pet store application. Here you can see pet slash find by status. HTTP method is get, expand this, and we can send request and see what response we are getting. Click on try it out, select the status as available, then click on execute, and here we got the output. The status code is 200, and here we got the response body. Now we will see HTTP status codes. We have to use HTTP status codes to provide the response to the client. It could be a success or failure response, but it should define what respective success or failure means from a server perspective. Here you can see HTTP status codes, 200 level which are success, 300 level which are related to redirection, 400 level which are related to client errors, 500 level which are related to server error. 200 OK, written by successful get or delete operations. Put or post also can use this if the service does not want to return the resource back to the client after creation or modification. 201 created. This is the response for successful resource creation by post request. 304 not modified, which is used if HTTP hashing header is implemented. 400 bad request. When an HTTP request body cannot be passed, we can use this HTTP status code. For example, if an API is expecting a body in the JSON format for post request, but the body of the request is malformed, then we can use this status code. 401 unauthorized. Authentication is unsuccessful while accessing the API. Suppose say if you are passing wrong username and password, we can use this particular HTTP status code. 403 forbidden. If a user is not authorized to perform an action, although authentication information is correct, then we can use this status code. 404 not found. If the requested resources is not available on the server, then we can use this status code. 405 method not allowed. If the user is trying to violate an API contract, for example, trying to update the resource by using post method instead of put method. These 500 level errors will occur due to server failures or issues with underlying server infrastructure.
You can get Java source code link for each video from the description section of the video. And here you can see the video, and to see the description, click on this more, and here you can see the description, and here you can see the links, and click on these links to get the Java source code.